What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's stream. It's Super Bowl Sunday. I was being lazy today, and I was almost thinking about not streaming, but I'm like, that wouldn't be that would not be very Ben of me to not stream on the Super Bowl, especially since the last few years we've actually done streams throughout the whole game, and I was like, okay, I can't go from that to not stream it at all. And at least talking about some of the props and had to bring on my man Sam from the Game Day NFL to help me talk prop bets because there's a lot of them. Sam, how are we doing this morning?
Doing well, man. It's just last minute, tinkering and looking around to see if there's anything we missed. But there is a massive market of props this year, and I'm glad we get to dive all the way into them.
Yeah, and it's crazy because every year in the back of my mind, I'm like, what other props can these books come up with? And then I go to DraftKings and they have markets that I haven't seen before. One in particular is not only do they have like who's going to get the first catch, they even dialed it down into what direction. I don't know. Have you seen some of those where it's like first play, pass to the right, pass middle, pass left? Have you seen some of those?
Yeah, I did. I took a look at the rushing props for that because I was talking to a couple of the 4 for 4 guys, and Noonan brought up CMC to rush to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, he opens up a ton of games with just zone reads to the left side. Apparently, it's a great bet. So, other than that, I haven't really looked at it too deeply, but definitely something to get into in the last 5 hours before this game starts.
Yeah, and I mean it just gives you an idea of how many prop bets there are, but things like
Right.
that, they sound silly on the surface, but like you said, if you look at the data and you see that, Christian McCaffrey on his first rushes throughout the season or even the last 2 years with the 49ers, like 80% of the time the first rush is to the left. There could be something there. So,
Yeah, I
uh
mean, why wouldn't you want to run behind Trent Williams, every time you possibly can, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that guy's scary, man. I was telling my wife, I'm like, I think he's the scariest guy in the NFL because he's like 330 or whatever, but he also moves pretty quickly. Like
Right.
that you shouldn't be able to be that big and move that fast.
I agree.
Yeah. So as people start funneling in here, I just want to ask you, what's your approach to the Super Bowl? Like, are you going in trying to find, a set number of props, or is it more just trying to find value? Is there anything like game level that you have like from a side or total perspective, or is it primarily kind of the prop market? Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Did we lose him? The aliens got him. Hold on one second. Alrighty, we just lost him, but we'll get him back in here. A little bit of technical difficulties, but I'll kind of tell you my strategy specifically. So I'm not going into try to have like a set number of props. For me, I think it's looking at the market, trying to find value. And I'll say like this year, it seems that most of the value has been picked up quicker than usual. Um, by like the first week after the game, right when we have the pause, that there weren't really that many that I thought I would be able to find. But then by like the next week, the last few days, I mean, I've only placed a few bets. Like I feel like the value has been picked up pretty quickly, and I think that's where you have to kind of dive into some of these other markets if you're trying to f- find an edge, right? Like you can go into this and have 10, 20 props and maybe on half of those, you're more flipping a coin, which is fine. I mean, if you want to have action, but like a lot of these, I mean, the lines are pretty good. They feel sharp. They feel like they're where they should be. That's not to say you can't find a lot of value. And that's why there's all sorts of derivative props. There's secondary like game props, and that's where you can kind of get creative with it and find value. And also there's cross sport props, which are fun. I played a few of those. Um, of course, you have your touchdown market things like that. Um, yeah. And if you're just tuning in, we lost Sam for a second. I think the aliens got him. He'll be hopefully back here shortly. Let's see here. Oh yeah, something happened with his power. But yeah, if you're in the chat, say what up. We'll do a little bit of a abbreviated roll call. If you have any questions on specific props, you guys can let us know too. Because again, there's so many that even if you guys bring up one that I might like, I could fire it up because I've done my best to find everything. But Sam's back.
That was remember when I told you about being in South Florida?
Yeah.
Sometimes we get random power surges here. Don't know why.
It happens, man. No, you're all good.
Completely forgot where we were though.
No, I was asking like do you have a specific strategy, like, or just what's your approach, I guess, on the Super Bowl?
Right. So I don't go into the Super Bowl really expecting, to go one way or another. I think something I've done this year is I tried not to get sucked into every single market that I could possibly find, which is something that happened to me last year. Somehow I ended up with like nearly 50 bets last year. And despite the fact I made a profit, it was kind of just like I'm sweating out every single little thing. And I kind of discovered I didn't enjoy that as much. So I tried to be a lot more selective with how I kind of attacked the market this year, and really kind of tried to stay away a lot from a lot more of those creative markets that kind of seemed like they're a little bit more exploitative, and kind of just stuck to what I knew, and really tried to get lines early. So like for a Super Bowl, like I'm not going to try and go too crazily into it. And just try and find out ways that enforce my narrative of the way that I think this game is going to go. And I think that's probably a good way to look at the Super Bowl, because it's so easy to get sucked into all of these crazy narratives and crazy, cross sport props and, rushing direction things. But, if there's data that backs it up, I think there's still a way to really attack a lot of those.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to a little bit of like how much time does one have, and if someone has like 40 hours throughout the week, it's like great, you can go down every rabbit hole you want. But if you only have like 5 hours, it's like you can't get too crazy with it, because then you're just you're getting in a position where you probably don't have an edge on a lot of these. So
100%.
Yeah, there's a lot of different approaches. Let's just kind of talk a high level about the game and what we kind of expect, because I think that will kind of lead into the prop discussion. Of course, 49ers are the favorites here. I think the most common narrative of this game is the Chiefs are the dogs, but they have Mahomes, and it's like, how can you bet on Mahomes as a dog? But, we have to remember that this 49ers team throughout the course of the season was the best team in football. And looking at the handicap of this game, it kind of comes down to, do you value, or how much do you value the whole body of work throughout the season versus like the last few games? Because if you value what's happened in the playoffs more, I think the Chiefs are probably the team you want to bet on, versus if you think you put more weight into what the 49ers have done throughout the season. And, maybe Purdy has had a few hiccups in the playoffs, but he could get back on track to where he was. You're probably going to bet on the 49ers. Do you feel like that's kind of a fair assessment I guess, of looking at this game to begin with?
Yeah, I definitely do there. It's so I do not like the 49ers. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan that is pretty pretty much degraded into a massive 49ers hater over the past couple of years. And I started out this season really not believing in them at all. I didn't believe in Brock Purdy at all. Um, but I've kind of become a believer over the past couple months. And even watching him struggle a little bit in the playoffs, I have to admit, watching him go on game-winning drives in Green Bay and really, helping to bring them back against the Lions, even though the Lions self-destructed in that game. I think there's a lot to really respect about Purdy's game and the way that he fits in this Kyle Shanahan offense. And I know we've made all these jokes about Shanahan's offense. Any guy can come in and run that offense, but we're really seeing Purdy run it at a high level. So I kind of had to really take a step back and kind of look at it from an angle of actually, does he make a difference? Does he move the needle in terms of elevating that offense, not just running it as a game manager, like a lot of people have said? And I do think he does run it, but I don't know. I can't shake off the body of work that I've seen in the playoffs so far from both the Chiefs and from the 49ers. I can't help thinking that if the Niners start slow at all and Kyle Shanahan gets in his own head, I don't think there's a worse team to be going up against in the NFL than Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Yeah, that's a really good point because they have that experience, and Andy Reid is a pretty good game manager. He's great at scheming up a really good game plan. So the 49ers can't get off to a slow start in this one. I think if the Chiefs get up and they start controlling the clock a little bit, I don't have much faith in the 49ers coming back. But the other way
Right.
around, I do have faith that the Chiefs can get back in the game, even if they're down 10, even 14, kind of depending on how the game is going. But I feel like there's ways the Chiefs can get back in this game. Let's talk about just some of the, more popular receiving, rushing, quarterback type props. And we can kind of group a lot of those together throughout this conversation. But one popular one I just wanted to start off with, and I think I actually bet this for a little bit, was Brock Purdy's under under was it attempts? Yeah, under attempts. And a lot of my thinking is that Christian McCaffrey is going to have a pretty heavy workload. Kind of going off what you're saying about Purdy, do you think that it's going to be a game where they are going to have to just almost double down, triple down on CMC having a big rushing game?
Yeah, I definitely think that. I'm with you on this. I actually, my favorite bet in this game is actually Purdy's under completions. So I don't think that in either case of them losing or them winning that he's going to end up throwing a lot in this game. It hasn't been that way all season. Even in their 4 losses, he only had 12, 18, 21 and 22 completions in those games. And he doesn't throw for a lot either. He averages 28, attempts a game. That's not a recipe for them to suddenly throw a lot against a defense that has routinely shut down every quarterback they've faced this season to, varying degrees, but especially in the last few weeks in the playoffs. So I definitely loved, attacking Purdy's unders from a passing standpoint. Even if you're a massive Chiefs fan and you think the Chiefs get up big in this game, I think they're going to work on trying to continually integrate Christian McCaffrey into this game and still try and move the ball down the field. I don't think you're going to see a lot of dinking and dunking from San Francisco. It's not really their MO to kind of go that route either. So I do think a lot of what Purdy's going to do is he's either going to be operating from a point of strength, moving the ball systematically down the field, and CMC gets a lot of work, 20 plus touches, or you're going to see them trying to play catch up, trying to get guys in space, trying to be creative. But again, I don't think that it's going to involve a lot of passing, even if they're down.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's some numbers to support that too. Even when the 49ers have it down in games, it's not like they just abandoned the run. And I think that
No.
kind of speaks to CMC's talent and just the offensive line and the way they can move the ball down the field. So yeah, I totally agree. Unless it gets out of control where it's even 3 scores, I don't think Shanahan is thinking about abandoning the run at all. So I like that one a lot. The carries, though, for CMC, it has crept up.
Mhm.
What is it? Is it 19 and a half? I think I
I
can pull it
believe
up
it's
here.
19 and a half. I
That's
looked at it when
getting
it
up
was
there.
18 and a half. I looked at it when it was 18 and a half. And then once it moved to 19, I was pretty much out at that number. I think CMC will do damage. I don't think he necessarily needs a ton of carries. I think he'll probably get them anyways.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think this is a defense. I don't think we're gonna see Kyle Shanahan go the way of Todd Monken, kind of just out coaching himself and
Mhm.
not running the ball against this defense when it's been such a weakness. I think Shanahan will try and lean on that since that's his de facto strategy, anyways, is to try and lead with the run. So I do think that's where they're gonna end up leaning.
Yeah, that one hurt, man. I had a future on the Ravens, and
I had an 18-1 on them from
yeah,
beginning of the season, and then midway through the season took them again. It was tough.
yeah, I was at 20-1, and I got him in like I think like June or July. But man,
Yeah.
just watching that, it was watching like a slow, painful death because I'm sure you were the same. Where it was just like
Hmm.
yeah, after the first quarter, I wasn't feeling confident. I was like, what are they doing offensively? And Mahomes got a little bit of a rhythm, and yeah, but hey, it happens. It's betting. Let's talk about some of the receiver props here. Do you have anything in particular that you like, or at least maybe a player on either side of the ball that you think is going to have a big game, passing wise or
Yeah,
receiving wise?
I really don't think you can do anything but go to Travis Kelsey and lock in his over. I think you're gonna have a lot of people, a lot of very very sharp sports bettors who are crying after this
Hmm.
game about their sharp Travis Kelsey unders just getting obliterated out of the water
Yeah.
because he is again their biggest weapon there. The matchup is going to be great with no Hufanga in this secondary anymore. The matchup is right there. I think you're going to see a lot of Charvarius Ward on Rashee Rice, kind of locking him down, and Lenore over the top, over the top as well. I think there's a lot of reasons to just go to Travis Kelsey and trust that he will be given the ball and probably force fed. So I have his over 70 and a half, over 20 and a half longest reception because he's done it in all 3 playoff games. And I also took him to go over 100.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I think this is just one of those classic Travis Kelsey games.
Yeah, and look, it's the Super Bowl, man. I mean,
Hmm.
I guarantee you that they're looking to get Travis Kelsey involved early and often. And
Hmm.
look, if they shut him down, like that's one thing. But I think going into it, you have to have that idea of like, okay, is he going to get the volume? Are they
Hmm.
going to try to give him the volume? Absolutely. So
Hmm.
I don't hate it. I didn't play that one, but I'm not on the under. I just think that yeah, I'm seeing yeah, like you said, the sharps, right? They're all on that number. They think it's inflated, but I think if you think about the game in a vacuum as the Super Bowl, it's different than if I was looking at this game throughout the regular season. And I think for that, gun to my head, I'm taking an over on Travis Kelsey's yards.
Yeah, I think you have to. Um, I don't know if there's any other like surefire receivers in this game that I'm willing to back. There's some other plays in there, but like Kelsey is the one that just sticks out right away. Like if they want to win, he is the engine that will carry them
Mhm.
really close to a win.
So I like Rice, but it's more from the reception side.
Okay.
I think watching the last few games, and I think we've been able to kind of see this is the Chiefs have been relying on that short passing game. So I think Rice can hit his reception number. I didn't bet that one, but that was one that I was it was on my list of like short leans. I just want to pull up what the actual number is. Give me 1 second. But yeah, the
Mm.
way they've incorporated Rice into that offense as of late, they want to get the ball to him in space. They also will take shots with him too, but sitting at 6.5, it's a pretty common number in the market. So 6.5. I mean, I would lean over there. On the 49ers side, though, it's tough because you have kind of a three-headed monster with Kittle, Debo, and Ayuk. Of those three, who would be the guy you would think is going to have the biggest game of those three?
It would be Debo to me. Um, from speaking to my buddy Derek Brown, who does a really extensive amount on coverage looks, Debo has been their guy against too high safety looks. So I think that's probably something you're going to see a lot from Steve Spagnuolo today. I think they're going to try and limit Kittle. They're going to put someone over the top of him at all times so he doesn't get behind that defense. That has to be a big worry for them. I think you're going to see a lot of L'Jarius Sneed blanketing Brandon Ayuk there. He shadowed over 50% of the time. That's the third highest shadow rate in the NFL. And the Chiefs only allowed just under 40% of targets to go to perimeter receivers. So I think, by process of elimination, I do think that Debo is probably the guy they have to look at. He had another week to get healthy. He's performed well in these spots before. I think he's going to have like a crazy game? Probably not, but I think he does enough to go over his 57.5 receiving yards number. I think he could probably get in the end zone. I think there's some upside with Debo.
Yeah, I think with Debo, he's going to have a big game. He's the difference maker in this game. I think when you talk about CMC, he's going to have to be relied on, of course. But as far as like a difference maker in my eyes, it's like, who's that guy who can take the team from, average to over the top and win this game? And it's got to be Debo, because we're expecting CMC to have, 16, 17 carries at least. Right. But Debo, it's, is he going to have that game where he breaks out? I think in their first Super Bowl, he had a big play right off the bat on that first drive in the first matchup between these two teams in the Super Bowl. They got to get him involved. And I'm curious, from the rushing side of things, do you think there's a way that you incorporate rushing and receiving, or do you just stick with receiving and not try to get too cute with it?
Yeah, I think you definitely can for Debo. It's going to be interesting there because we really don't know exactly how healthy he is. So not knowing that and not knowing, how his shoulder is doing, it's tough for me to go right ahead and put that in there. I think I'm a little bit leaning safer there. And that's kind of one of the things I didn't want to get drawn too far into was Debo rushing props, because I knew if I started on them, I would turn them into probably one of my favorite things to track. And I didn't really want to go too far into the weeds with that. So I think I'm just going to stick with his receiving yards and be safe there. I do think he probably sees a few carries. I actually think I think CMC is probably not 100% healthy.
I don't think he is either, man. I don't think
we see Elijah Mitchell get a few carries in this game. His 4.5 rushing yards number is really attractive. I think there's a lot of ways.
Let's talk about Mitchell for a second.
Yeah.
Because I like that narrative a lot. I fired up his over 1.5 rush attempts. I think the 4.5 is very similar yards wise. I think, like, if one of those hits, they probably both hit.
Right.
I think he's, in my eyes, that's some low hanging fruit. I really do that. I think that's good value.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit, and we can obviously get a little bit more into like the receiving side of those plays a little bit later on. But yeah, Mitchell is right there. I mean, he's still an efficiency monster. As long as he is healthy and doesn't get banged up, I do think that we see him at least 2 or 3 carries in this game, and I do think he gets all of his numbers pretty well there. They can bring him in, short yardage for touchdown stuff if they're worried about, McCaffrey at all there. So definitely there. I want to pick your brain on one thing before we move on, since we're on the topic of short yardage. There's a prop that's been going around obviously everywhere. We don't have any like tush push kind of guys in this game. But what do
Yeah.
you think about that over under shortest touchdown over under 1.5 yards?
Yeah.
Because
So I
it's plus money on the over. So
yeah, so I bet this in the past, and the whole thing is, if you get a pass interference in the end zone, the ball's placed at the 1,
yes,
and then that's where it's almost probably a 90% chance you're gonna get a short touch, maybe even higher, right, when you're at the
right.
1. I didn't dive deep into that one this year, but I'm always leaning towards it being shorter because
Mhm.
you get that pass interference in the end zone, you're right at the 1, you're probably gonna bang it in, and that's kinda how you look at it, right? Like, can you get that? And also, there is a possibility where a team rushes it and doesn't get in, and then they're at the 1. So I think there's enough ways where it can happen. I think the casual fan looks at that and they're like, "No, that's not gonna happen." But when you break it down that way, I would say
I do
shorter.
think I do think the way that the odds are labeled, I was looking on an offshore that I have, and it was plus 115 to the over and minus 145 to the under. I think the way the odds are labeled, I think that's how they feel as well.
Yeah, no, I
It does
totally
it
agree.
does feel it does feel that way to me.
Yeah. I kind of disagree with this a little bit because like I think it let me put it this way. I think there is a scenario and it's pretty plausible that Mitchell has a few plays already ready to go. Like they know that Mitchell's going to be in that spot. It could either be short yardage. Yeah, I think he's actually going to get touches regardless of CMC's health. I mean, it's not like he's taking 90 or 10% of his snaps. Like all we need is 5%, and that's it, right? So I kind of disagree with that a little bit, but that's just my take. You know, you can
Yeah,
play it. You
I
can play
do
his over.
think I do think that in a game like this, they're gonna pull out as many stops as possible. Shanahan's one of the more creative guys out there. I guarantee he's got a plan for Mitchell to see some work, especially all those times down the season. It had to be at least 2 or 3 times that he said we need to get Mitchell more involved.
Yeah, and I mean, he's serviceable. I mean, he's more than
Mhm.
serviceable. We've seen him, in spots where he's done pretty well in CMC's absence. I saw this one. It's kind of tempting. I
It
mean,
is tempting.
you probably like it if you're on
I
his
do.
overs.
I do. This was a this was a bet that I looked at. Not Kelsey's side, but I did this for Devontae Smith last year. I think it was 30 yards in each half, and I want to say it was like plus 850.
Hmm.
It was some crazy number. I really like this. I think if this is also a game script kind of question. Like you're thinking about how the game script's going to go. Whether Kelsey's the kind of guy they're going to look to get involved really early to kind of
Hmm.
establish flow and everything like that. He could also be a guy they look to salt the game away, which is why this prop is so juiced. But I really like it.
Hmm. Yeah. Said he would have had 0 carries all season. I think they use him today. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Um, he doesn't trust the other backs. Yeah, I think they just like to get Debo the ball whenever they can. Um,
Yeah.
but Debo's got to stay healthy in this game, man.
Yeah, we gotta think
That's
about Debo's shoulder and where
yeah.
his health is at on that case. So I mean that I'm very scared of taking Debo's overs. I would be much more willing to take low hanging fruit with
Mhm,
Elijah Mitchell and get 3.5 yards to the 16.5 that you're getting with Debo. Like I would much rather get that.
mhm. No doubt. There's a prop on FanDuel that's matchup receiving yards plus 21.5 for Kittle against Kelsey.
I don't know. I think
That's
Kittle is
tough.
much more of a red zone weapon in this game than he is an open field weapon.
Yeah, and this one I think is really predicated on game script, like who's
Oh,
up.
absolutely.
So, I mean, in a way, it's almost like you're betting who's going to be winning. Well, with that one,
You're basically betting for like a Kansas City blowout for
yeah.
this to happen because if they're up, they're not going to use Kittle and Kelsey's going to get a ton of run.
Hmm. Yeah, and I agree with this. I'm just saying he needs to stay
Yeah.
healthy in this game. Like, what was it? Was it the Packers game where he got hurt? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
few
Two,
plays.
three plays. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
I was
it was his first target.
yeah, I was watching just like the first few snaps of that one the other day, just watching the replay, and like the second play, his like shoe came off and everyone thought he was hurt, and they're like, "Oh, he's fine." Then he went back in and then he got hurt. So I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh man." Um let's see here. Oh yeah, touchdown scores. I think you had a post about some touchdown scores you like, right?
I did. I had first touchdown scores. It wasn't any time because I haven't really taken a good look at that market yet. But I mean, CMC is someone, obviously you have to look at. I think Kittle is a good look here. I said a couple minutes ago, I think he's a red zone weapon in this game.
Mhm. That could
I
be a good
think
hedge, right? Like if you're not going to be on any other receiving Kittle props, right? It's like
mhm.
we're throwing a touchdown, get a little exposure for him.
Yeah, you get +1, you get +180 on it. You're getting good odds there. I think you're gonna get one of those big three guys to score. And if you think Debo doesn't get as much run in the red zone because of maybe his health, and they want to save him, for chunk plays between the 20s, and Ayuk's being shadowed by Snead all the time, Kittle is obviously a viable third option there in the receiving game. So I
Mhm.
like that. Everyone's hopping on this use check anytime touchdown bet. Are you on that as well? I mean, I think I've seen everybody hop on it enough that I've seen it drop from, I believe it was 15-1 earlier in the week. I believe it's 9-1 now.
Yeah, so I'm on use check as far as receiving props
Okay.
go. I got in pretty early on those,
Yeah,
and
half a
yeah,
yard like a week and
yeah,
a half ago.
yeah, half a yard minus 135, and I'm not like the type of guy who gets worried that everyone's on a prop. I know some people don't like that feeling, and if you feel that way, it's fine. But
Mhm.
I put it in earlier in the week, or actually like earlier in the week 2 weeks ago, and then I saw like a lot of people starting to get on it. And I'm like, hey, it's fine because I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the way he was used last game that the 49ers played, he's been used in the Super Bowl before. So I think it makes a lot of sense. As far as score a touchdown, that's where I kind of, I, I don't want to say draw the line because it's still plus 900, but I just
Right.
didn't have any interest in that. Did you bet that one?
No, I'm not on that. I don't really, I like Juszczyk. I bet him to score. He was one of the first touchdown scorers. I bet, just because it was 38-1, and why not? But
Mhm.
I'm not gonna go take a quarter of that in juice and go lay it there. It's not worth the $10 that I would throw on it, honestly, because I think it's probably like a 2% chance he scores, maybe less.
Mhm.
So I'd like to have the 0.5%, whatever it is, that he scores first. I think that's much better use of the juice that I'm getting there. Um, as far as like a long shot goes.
So on the topic of touchdown scores, one I played,
Mhm.
I think I played, let's see here, the 7th. So earlier, I guess that was like, let's see, Wednesday.
Mhm.
Kind of a numbers play, just where the number is sitting at. But I actually kind of like a narrative here. And some people in chat are going to hate this. You might hate it, but I think McCole Hardman could get a touchdown in this game.
I
Look, I get it. What happened with him, like in the red zone? I think that people hear his name and they're like, it immediately goes to the rule, right? Like we need to change this rule. Like
right.
the connotation behind his name right now is like super negative. But I think like having an extra week off, and Hardman has had success in a Super Bowl before, and I think there's a lot of that carries over. And I think Andy Reid is the type of guy to trust his success in previous Super Bowls than what happened last week. I truly believe that, even though after that fumble, I don't think he had a touch in that next game.
He did not. He
Yeah,
didn't. I don't even think he saw. I don't even know if he saw a snap in that game.
I think he did,
Okay.
but not. I don't. I think his snaps were down, but
Oh no, that was the AFC Championship because
Oh, okay, that's right.
I took all his unders. That's right. That's right. Never mind.
Yeah, so this is 20-1.
Mhm.
To score a touchdown, and this
That's
is
good numbers now.
yeah,
It's down to 11-1 now.
yeah, and it moved. This is very
Mhm.
game script dependent
Mhm.
because they would have to be playing from behind. I don't think I don't feel that good about it if it's just a Chiefs game where they're up. But at the number, I had to play 20-1. I had to
I'm
do
gonna
it.
give you one. I'm gonna give you one that I bet yesterday. And I was late on this because he was just activated and people hit it really quickly. I know you know where I'm going with
Oh
this.
yeah, yeah, I do.
We saw last year, little pop pass in the end zone. Why not run it back with Sky Moore for this? Just activated off injured reserve. We haven't seen him this postseason. Hasn't really had a good sophomore year. It's one of probably my biggest draft misses in some time. But I've always really liked this kid's game. I think has the potential to be a really good route runner. Probably no Kadarius Toney in this game.
Yeah.
We have to think who else does he realistically have to beat out, in terms of touchdowns. Noah Gray, maybe Justin Watson, deep touchdowns only, and then Rice and Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. So I mean, I think the barrier is low there. Like I said, it's not as appealing a number anymore. I got it at 12-1. It's now down to 8-1 on DraftKings, and I haven't checked anywhere else. But I do like it. If you like the player, he does have a history of scoring touchdowns in the Super Bowl. If that's the kind of thing that interests you, it interests me. And I'm looking for ways that we can get up there. And this is another game, a little bit more game script dependent as well. I think this only works in a scenario where they're up a lot, up maybe a couple touchdowns. And we could see him kind of as like a last touchdown scorer kind of guy where, he doesn't need to be on the field that much. But I also could see them working him in just in the red zone there. He's not going to be a deep touchdown guy, but he'll be, there if they're on like inside the 10-yard line. I think he'll probably be in there because he's a good route runner there. And I don't think the 49ers would think to put anyone decent on him. He would probably draw like Ambry Thomas or Isaiah Oliver, one of those like lower level cornerbacks that they have that's not good in coverage at all. So I do like Sky Moore there. You're looking for a little bit of trickery there, someone a little bit outside the box. Same vibe as the Mecole Hardman thing, a little bit different. I will say to your Mecole Hardman point, the last time they played the 49ers, he had 3 touchavs. So
Exactly. Like
yeah,
the narrative is there. And again, I was
the
20 to
narrative is
1.
there.
I was like, you know what? I have to do it. I had to sprinkle it. But good point about Moore because in the Super Bowl last year, he had 1 target for a touchdown, and then he had a
Made me
rushing.
miserable.
Yeah, and then he had the rushing attempt. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's two touches. Who knows? I mean, again, we don't know what the Chiefs and even the 49ers, like what they're scheming up. Like there's speculation.
Right.
And I think you can point to the Super Bowl in previous Super Bowls and you can try to draw some conclusions. So I don't think that it's a bad play at all.
No.
What about Jerick McKinnon? If he plays, like, are you going to have anything to do with him, or is it just he's coming off injury? Can't risk it.
I think he's coming. I think he's coming off injury. I don't want to risk it. I'm not too interested in it. But a lot of that is I'm already heavily invested in Pacheco as well. Both rushing and receiving. I have plays on his overs there. So I will say, like, you can really destroy the 49ers in the receiving game as a running back. 17 different running backs have gone over 16 yards in a game through the air against them, which is really high. And that's just not one every game. Like there's sometimes like multiple backs on one team that have gone over. I think one of the games, I think it was against Pittsburgh, they had 3 different backs go over 16 receiving yards against them. So it was someone. It might not have been them because I can only think of Warren and Najee, but it was definitely someone that had 3 different backs go over that. So they can get decimated in the passing game there. So I will say if McKinnon's used, it might be in like kind of like a trickery based format there where they get him out there. But I'm not betting on it. They've been so pessimistic with his chances to play and like
Mhm.
play meaningful snaps in this game. I'm not willing to roll the dice there.
Yeah, and
Not with my money.
I think, like, the way I look at it is he's probably at, like, the tail end of his career. Like, he's a running
Hmm.
back. Like, running backs, if they can make it at 25 years old in a few years in the league, like, you're already over, like, half of the, uh, lifespan of a running back, right? And he's in his
He's had
30s.
multiple major injuries
Yeah,
too.
and, like, a hernia injury, I mean, it's I haven't had one, but, like, it's different than, like, a knee or, uh I wanna say ankle, just because, like, the way
Sports
that
hernias hurt. Sports
yeah,
hernias hurt, man. I
the
had one
way
recovering from a surgery a couple years ago. They hurt.
yeah, and it's just the recovery process, it's different for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It varies big time. So, I would say, like, right now, I would set the line at, like, 50-50 for him to even take a snap.
Oh yeah.
Like, so, we'll see. It could be a smokescreen. Maybe he comes out, maybe he doesn't, but yeah, it's just hard to say, what he does. So we have about 15 more minutes left. Let's talk about some, like, off the wall, either long shots or just stuff that you've seen in the market that kinda caught your attention. I'm gonna start with one here. I should probably see what the current line's at, but I know this was on a few different books. This isn't a super long shot. I got it at plus 190, but it
Mhm.
was which will happen first, Brock Purdy to throw a touchdown or an interception. I actually like the odds at interception at plus 190. Um,
I
I
like
think,
that.
yeah, I think there's a few scenarios where the 49ers can score with McCaffrey and then maybe the interception comes later in the game.
Mhm.
Um, so I like the value there. I kind of priced it out closer to like plus 150. So I thought I had a little bit of a edge on there. I'll throw it to you. What's kind of a random one that you saw?
I like to go with these like negative correlated receiving receptions and receiving yard props for like these guys that are like exclusive deep threats. So a guy I've been doing that with is my buddy Adam Rosenberg. He's an absolute wizard on it. And
They're so
one of the
fun,
ones
man,
we
when they
cooked up,
hit.
they're great. So one of the
Yeah.
ones I cooked up was this Marquez Valdez Scaling under 1.5 receptions and over 43 and a half. Or you could honestly just go to like alt 50.
Yeah. Just
And
catches
that,
one bomb. What does it pay?
yeah, it pays out 54-1. So
Crazy.
you can start to like juice it up a lot more as well,
Yeah, with
like
the
and just get like
different
you can get some
levels.
sick,
Yeah.
yeah, get some sick odds on plays like that. Like we did one for the title game with Justin Watson. I think it was 61 to
Yeah.
1 for him to get under 1.5 and a 50-yard or 60-yard catch or something like that. But yeah, some of those are really fun. That's MVS's role at this point in his career. It is to be a deep threat and kind of, just be deceptive downfield. It wouldn't shock me to see him just to get one bomb catch. And, that's it for him. That's really all he needs there. So I think something like that is really fun. I'm trying to go through
I
my notes to see if
yeah,
there's anything else I
I
found.
I wanted to bring up a point too because I played a few of
Go ahead.
those. I also think Rashee Rice in the other way, uh, kind of the inverse is if you take his under yards over receptions,
That's interesting
that
too.
that could be play because just watching the Chiefs, the way they've attacked the short passing game. I mean, the Ravens were caught off guard, I think. Like, they couldn't get to Mahomes. Mahomes knew where his guys were on every play. He knew
Mhm.
his first to second to all the way down to his fifth reads. And Rice, though, he's explosive and he could break one. So that it makes it a little more tricky, but we're talking about what 30 to 1 probably on something like that. So
Yeah.
it,
There was
it adds up.
There was another one I looked at there. Same vein with MVS, fastest ball carrier for
Mm,
him. We know that MVS has been, a 4.3, 4.4 guy for a long time. Definitely not the fastest guy on this field. I think, Debo, Ayuk, Rice probably all have him beat. But you're getting 7.5 to 1 on MVS to be the fastest guy when we know. I think he was the fastest guy in the conference championship round
hmm
as well on that 40-yard play to ice the game. I think that's a really good play there. I think to your point, Mecole Hardman being the fastest player on the field, if he sees like a bomb play, he's 20-1. Like that's another
I'm even showing
potential
25-1
chance there.
on FanDuel right now for him.
Yeah. So I
So-
mean, there's a shot there. I think there's a lot of those that you can find out that are really interesting there as well. And then another one is Kittle to have a 50+ yard catch and to score a touchdown is 8.5-1 on DraftKings. And I
Ooh.
think that's a really interesting one because he could be, just that deep threat that gets behind the defense for one touchdown and have that 50-yard catch there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. Going back to that fastest ball carrier, I actually played Rashee Rice at plus 820. This was like right when they came out.
Right.
But I almost feel like I want to get a little more exposure on like another guy, especially one of these deeper guys. I could either see Hardman or what was the other one you just said? Did you mention
MVS.
MVS? Yeah.
Yeah.
What is he at? I'm showing
He's at
11-1?
7-1 right now. He's at 7-1. If you can get that better, did you say 11-1?
Yeah, if you go to
On FanDuel?
FanDuel
wow.
has them at it's a
That's great.
11 plus 1120, so 11.
Oh
almost
wow,
12.
that's
That's pretty good.
I just assumed that was gone because I saw that earlier in the week, and I'm like, there's no way that's gonna stay there. It's gonna be bet down. I mean, I've seen this. I saw that guy run track. I was at USF at the same time as him, and I saw him practicing one day. Like saw him running track. That man is fast.
Yeah. No, yeah. It just comes down to can they get an opportunity, right? But I think he could. We were talking about this earlier. I think it's just the books are valuing what the 49ers did, the body of work throughout the season. So we'll see. It's a tough one for me because I can make a strong case for either team. I'm personally cheering for the Niners just because I'm a Broncos fan, so I can't really. I don't feel like
I understand
cheering
that
for the Chiefs, but I'm not.
I can't cheer for the Niners because I'm an Eagles fan, and we roasted Nick, Joey, and Nick Bosa at the conference championship game last year. So,
am I crazy for thinking that a Ravens Lions Super Bowl would have been so much fucking fun?
Oh, 100%. Are you kidding me? I think if you go back to before the conference championship and you ask what's the least appealing and possibly just not boring in the sense that we won't enjoy it, but boring in the fact that we see this over and over and over again. This is already the second time we're seeing this matchup. It feels like we see this all the time. They would have picked this matchup to be the most boring Super Bowl. You can have Lamar Jackson and Dan Campbell and the fun Lions.
Yeah, the Lions in Vegas right now. Those fans they would just be taking over the freaking city.
That would be incredible. And Ravens fans are fun too. But I just feel like Chiefs fans are bored. They've been here so often that it's not even fun anymore. And then 49 I just think 49ers fans are the most complainant, happy people on the face of the earth.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ravens. Good old wee hooping, man. And we were. I know you just hopped on, Bud, but we were. That's his name. I'm not calling you Bud, but what's up, Bud? We both.
I call people Bud.
I know. It's like the passive aggressive, hey, Bud. No, we both had futures on the Ravens, so I needed the Ravens to win. So
that would have been so nice.
Maybe that's part of it too. Why I'm salty with this matchup. So
yeah, I do feel like this is probably going to be a good game. I don't think we're going to see a blowout on any side. I would be really demoralized if we saw a blowout on either side of this game. I don't know. I think you can make arguments to both sides. I think the Chiefs just have been here before, and I think that's going to play a big role. I don't think people have compared this to Hostetler and Nick Foles, the runs that they went on. And I don't think Purdy's anywhere close to them. They were completely out of the blue, but Brock Purdy was just an MVP candidate. I think, and this is coming from me. So like when I have to be the adult in the room about Brock Purdy, I think
Yeah.
there's a real issue here because I hate Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
I've never liked him. I've never liked the Niners. I never liked him on the Niners. I didn't think he would be good on the Niners. I just thought he would be average. And I definitely was wrong.
I'll say this with Brock Purdy. If he comes out and has a bad game, I think the discourse, it's going to be hard to make a case for like Brock Purdy ever being like that caliber again. He would have to really prove himself. He would probably have to win a Super Bowl, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, this is like make or break because there's still so many people, like we see it on X all the time. Like we could ask, is Purdy elite right now? And I think it's 50-50, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a really weird discourse. It's not fair by any scope because we're so reactive as viewers and as casual, commentators and fanalists that we think that just because one thing happens that it diminishes a whole body of work over the course of the season. I mean, we were ready to crown Jalen Hurts like the next big thing over the first 9 weeks of the year. 7 weeks later, you have Philadelphia media going back to their tried and true method of trashing the team's elite $250 million quarterback.
Yeah,
Nick Sirianni was a coach of the year candidate. People wanted him to be fired, including me. But, still, it's kind of crazy how quick we are to dismiss. Like you said, that's what this game is all about. This matchup is body of work. And, how much does it matter? It's clear that it matters an absolute ton to people. And, one bad game, and it's just reactionary. One bad game screwed Brock Purdy out of MVP. One bad game screwed Dak Prescott out of MVP. One bad throw realistically screwed Josh Allen out of MVP. Things could have been so much different if one thing goes differently.
Oh yeah,
and it's just the whole way that the NFL is right now.
I mean, just think about Joe Flacco winning the comeback player of the year. I mean, there were a few plays that could have gone just a little differently, and Flacco probably doesn't win that award. I mean, that was funny just because there were a lot of people who had exposure on that market. I personally didn't. I've never bet comeback player of the year. The only way I would is if someone like alerted me like this is like way off or some book had a really bad line. But it was just funny that people were betting that market.
It is weird. I know we're going a little bit off course here. It is weird to me that they suddenly decided to make it more about the stat body of work.
Yeah,
than
it's never been about that
years. And it's always been about the optics.
Like Alex Smith, Flacco, right? Won it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I bet Flacco because like I wanted the vibes and I kind of had a feeling that Flacco was going to win just because everybody was talking about it. But I wouldn't have been surprised if Hamlin won it all. Like I was expecting him to win. Like I was just expecting that bet to be that. I took it with a free bet. I was happy if it won, okay if it lost. And I did not really expect it to win. But it was sitting there. So I mean, it just shows how off some of these award markets can still be.
Yeah.
Like defensive rookie of the year, Will Anderson was like 15-1 in December. Like, just there's a lot of discourse in the awards market. It's still thankfully a little bit soft. So
yeah.
hopefully that stays soft because we're quickly losing a lot of these markets to these books becoming sharp. It wasn't that long ago that props were really easy to bet and really easy to win at. And now we don't have that anymore. So
yeah, they're getting sharper. No doubt about that. Any last bets that you wanted to talk about or thought were interesting before we can just give our best bet for the big game?
I think we're good here. I'm rolling with the Chiefs. I've had a 7.5 to 1 future since before the divisional. I think it was before the divisional round, before the Bills game. I took that, so I'm rolling with that. That is what I will be rooting for tonight.
Yeah, good. You're in a good spot there. Do you have any intention of potentially hedging if they got up and like you could grab like a 49ers like 3.5 live, or are you just gonna
it's not for enough money that it would
gotcha.
It would cross my mind, and I can't do it. Can't root for the Niners.
Yeah, I think I think if the Ravens would have made it, right, and there was a scenario where I could have potentially got a middle, not so much
Oh
just like
yeah.
a 50-50 hedge, I probably would have taken something, especially if it was the Niners, and I thought about that, but didn't even matter because we never got there, so
Yeah, because I had futures. It sucks because I was rooting for. I didn't care what AFC team won because
yeah, you
although
had
I wanted the
both.
Ravens to win, I had both of them. Obviously, I had a bigger ticket on the Ravens, but still have the Chiefs ticket. But I had a Lions ticket, and I was really hoping that I was just gonna have a sweat-free Super Bowl. I was gonna have the Lions, or I was gonna have my Ravens slash Chiefs play, and I was gonna be really happy there either way. But the 49ers, I knew once they came back in that game against Green Bay, they were gonna win. They were gonna win
Mhm.
the NFC championship. And it makes me miserable, but it is what it is.
So I think you mentioned this earlier, what was your best bet?
Brock Purdy under 20.5 pass completions.
Okay, I like it. I
I
like
I
it.
do think it's a little bit it's a little bit of the ways out of the box. It's not. I think it's a really fair number. I think the public was unexplainably hopping on the over there, despite there not being really a lot of ways to support the over
Mhm.
in a game like this. So I think when I took it, the over was like minus 130, and it was plus 110. So getting a lot of plus money juice on a prop that I think is a good shot at hitting.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. I mean, I like that, I'm on the, attempts, so, I think it makes a lot of sense. What is a if 49ers future, would you hedge that? I think you nailed it, though. It really comes down to, like, what does the money mean, right?
Yeah.
I think that's, like, step 1. I've
I
learned
think
that
you're in
from
a
a few
better
guys.
chance. I think like if it makes any difference, like you're getting plus money with the Chiefs. Like that's the scenario where you look to hedge.
Mhm,
If the money is significant enough that you want to have something on the other side. So I think you're in a good spot to hedge if you want to.
mhm.
Um, I get like we said, it just depends how much it's for.
I wonder I mean, you'd have to book, but if you bought a half point to get it to 3, I know you're gonna be paying a little juice, so it's probably like minus 130. I would almost feel more
It works though.
comfortable yeah, I would feel more comfortable hedging with that than 2.5, even though it can land within the number, but that's just how I look at it, just depends on how much it is, right? Because then you have a little more wiggle room.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that either.
Yeah, okay, so what is my best bet? I mean, Kyle Juszczyk over receptions, but the only thing, though, is now it's up to minus 150 is the best number. That got
What is
steamed.
that? It's just over half a
Yeah,
reception.
over half a
I mean,
reception at
yeah,
minus 150. I don't know
that
if I
that
wanna
thing was
give
like
that
plus 115, like when the odds opened up. Everyone
yeah,
steamed it. It's too heavy at this point.
yeah,
What
I
about the
don't know.
Mitchell? What about the Mitchell low hanging fruit?
I know, I think that's gonna be mine. I just wanna see let's see here. Rush attempts 1.5. Yeah, I think that's probably gonna be my best bet,
Yeah,
is his over 1.5. I really do think that they're gonna incorporate him today,
yeah,
especially short yardage. Um, they've seen him in those positions if they get, like, a 3rd and goal. I
yeah.
wouldn't be shocked to see him, on the goal line, so I'll probably go with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good play. I ended up sizing up my unit while we were on the show to add a little bit more onto that Mitchell over 4.5
Mhm,
rushing yards. So I like that, and I think that I do think that he gets like 2 or 3 carries.
mhm.
Hopefully, he gets more because that'll give us some extra edge there.
Yeah. 3.5 I'm showing 4.5, but if you can find a 3.5 for his rushing yards, it's
Oh
not bad
yeah,
either. Yeah.
yeah. I'm just stuck to using Hard Rock. I know all
Oh,
my
yeah.
offshores will
Yeah.
have those miserable juiced odds, so I have to use Hard Rock, which is good.
It's not a bad book. I used it when I
No,
was out there in Florida.
it's
Pretty
really
good
not.
pretty good
I wish we
market
had
selection.
everything. I wish we had everything else. I have ways to get
Yeah,
like I
of
have
course.
like runners and stuff like that, but
Wait, when is what's, like, the deal? I try to keep on top of it, but it changes with Florida. Like, are they gonna let other books come in, or is that still, like, up in the air for a while?
so the compact that was signed was a deal that DeSantis made with the Seminole tribe
Mhm.
for, I believe it's a 30-year compact, which is really stupid. So I believe it would take a constitutional amendment to bring more operators into the fold. I know, and it was never confirmed, but people have drawn conclusions that all the lobbyists and the group that was going up against the Seminoles trying to hold this up in court for the
Mhm.
last few months, they were backed by DraftKings and FanDuel. It was their
Gotcha.
lobbyists to try and bring it in there. Again, that's not confirmed. It's all just alleged, but I think it probably holds some merit because Florida is one of the three biggest capitas of betting, behind California and Texas. And the fact that we got it legalized definitely means that there's a little bit of an opening. I do think that give it a year and a half, we probably get it back on the ballot for
Mhm.
full sports book. Especially if DeSantis gets voted out, loses a race or, just moves on from his role as governor. As soon as he vacates, this becomes, I think, wide open for those companies to kind of come in and challenge the validity of it again. We could just have an issue with sports betting, going forward, but I don't know. I do think there's a chance that we get full operational sports betting in Florida at some point in the next 5 years. I just don't know if it's sooner or
Yeah,
later.
it needs to be sooner just because I mean, I hope the case isn't where, you start to see more juice sides and stuff since there's like one book and it kind of becomes like a monopoly, right? But
Hmm.
that's always the concern with just having like one book in a state. But yeah,
Right.
it's so far so good. It sounds like. Also, I just wanted to bring this up before you leave because I thought it was funny. We were talking about it. So I'm in a Telegram group that I would say is
Hmm.
pretty sharp, and someone
Hmm.
just dropped a McKinnon over 4.5 longest reception. It just randomly. I just thought it was funny. I'm like, oh god, am I gonna have to do it? But look, I guess the thing is like if he plays, does he
He's
play?
hitting
He's
it
in.
probably. He's
Yeah,
probably got a packet. He's probably got like a package of plays.
yeah,
Like if he's activated, he has to have at least one design
yeah,
play where he's the guy. Like it's going
yeah.
to
And if
him.
he
Pat
doesn't
will
play,
find a way.
it's a void
It voids. It
on almost
voids.
every book. So
Yeah,
yeah, it
there's an option.
literally just popped up. So had to
I
bring that
like it.
up. I mean, there's probably a pretty good chance that I might get on that. I just want to hear like some sort of report, like he's full go, and
Right.
make me feel a little more comfortable. But yeah, I just thought it was funny. So I guess we'll leave it.
Definitely.
We'll leave it with that. Appreciate you hopping on, man. Best of luck with the future bet, the other bets you have, and yeah, hopefully we'll have you on again. I know you do a lot of kind of off season best ball stuff too, right?
I do. I do a lot of I'm gonna take a few weeks off of football,
Yeah, you
focus
have
more on
to.
golf. But
Yeah.
focus a little bit more on golf stuff there and March Madness coming up as well. But yeah, I will be hopping full into best ball once everything starts to get loaded out around March, April. Really,
You
really excited. Really
you
excited for that.
you sweating anything right now in golf?
Yeah, actually, I have a ton of guys near the top of the leaderboard for the WM Phoenix. I have Thigala, who I grabbed live with a buddy of mine. We grabbed him at 12-1 on
Nice.
Thursday. I have Justin Thomas, who's 10 under. I think he's like 5 shots back. I have Cameron Young, who like is so overdue to win his first tournament.
Yeah,
And
he is.
I also have Jordan Spieth, and then I have a top 10 on Sam Burns. So I've like guys all over the top of the leaderboard. The only thing we're fading at this point is Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, now he's starting to make a run. So at
Yeah.
least the end of that third, I have a pretty decent DraftKings lineup, but apparently Taylor Montgomery just shit the bed, and
Oh
he's like
yeah, yeah.
+4. So that that may have just killed that. That sucks. I just checked it. I was like going into the stream, I was sitting pretty good, and then I don't know what happened to him, but that's
I
golf.
can't wait. I can't wait for it to be like 6:30, like 7 o'clock tonight, and like they're like at like 15 and like 16, like the rounds winding down, and I just completely changed the channel in the
Yeah.
middle of like the second quarter.
Yeah,
at
you're
the
gonna
Super Bowl
you're
party.
gonna have like a lot of sweat going on. You're gonna have your Super
Oh,
Bowl
100%.
props and then and all those from the Phoenix Open. So, anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Appreciate you hopping on again, man. It was great. Best of luck, chat. Best of luck, Sam. And yeah, we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on.
All right, see ya.